You know that split second when you realize the monster under the bed isn't imaginary, it's your neighbor with a clipboard and garden shears? Yeah. That happened on a perfect Saturday in Oak Ridge Estates. And the monster's name was Vanessa Klein. She marched straight up to my 10-year-old daughter. Smiled like she was doing the Lord's work. And snip. One braid gone. One little girl's last connection to her dead mother. Lying in the grass like trash. What Vanessa didn't know. I was watching in 4K from my basement. And I don't file complaints. I file receipts. Oak Ridge Estates is the kind of place realtors drool over, manicured lawns. Kids on scooters. Flags waving like we're all in a Hallmark movie. But step one toe out of line and the HOA hits you with a fine so fast your head spins. Vanessa had been president for 7 straight years. Re-elected every time because nobody wanted the drama of running against her. She'd smile at block parties. Compliment your hydrangeas. Then slap you with a $150 notice because your trash can was visible for 12 whole minutes on pickup day. Everyone called her the Velvet Hammer. I called her a bully in Lululemon. I'd already been on her radar once. After my wife died in that wreck 2 years ago. Vanessa started the rumor mill, poor Logan. Barely holding it together. You see how Emily just stares at the ground? He must be letting her run wild. I kept my mouth shut. Paid the bogus fines. Fixed their Wi-Fi for free so they'd leave me alone. But I watched. And I learned every camera in this neighborhood funnels through the county server I helped build after the 2023 vandalism wave. Vanessa thought those cameras were her eyes. They were mine. That Saturday. Emily was at the pocket park, the one with the stone bench her mom and I poured concrete for the summer she turned 8. Emily hadn't spoken since the funeral. Not a word. Doctors called it trauma-induced mutism. The only thing that still lit her up was that braid, long. Chestnut. With the tiny silver beads her mom used to thread in every morning like a prayer. I'd kept the ritual going. It was the one thing that made her eyes soften. I was in my office. Half watching the feeds while I debugged code. When the playground cam pinged motion. There was Vanessa. Pastel pink polo tucked into white capris. Hair sprayed into submission. Clipboard swinging like a battle axe. She zeroed in on Emily like a heat-seeking missile. "Sweetheart," she said. Voice dripping artificial sweetener. "That hairstyle is simply not compliant with our minor appearance standards." Section 14.8. We updated it last week for visual cohesion. Emily didn't look up. Just kept sketching. Vanessa's smile never wavered. "I'm afraid I have to enforce it. For the neighborhood." She reached into her tote, the one with the monogram VK. President patch, and pulled out a pair of bright orange garden shears. The kind you use on rose bushes. Snip. Snip. The braid dropped. 7 years of morning rituals. Gone in 2 seconds. Emily's hands froze mid-drawing. She stared at the braid on the grass. Then slowly picked it up and held it to her chest like it might still be alive. No tears. Just that 1,000-yard stare I'd seen too many nights at 3 a.m. Vanessa dusted her hands like she'd just performed surgery. "There. Much more appropriate. Tell your father the fine will be in his portal by morning. Have a blessed day." The park was dead quiet. Even the birds shut up. I sat there in my chair. Heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. But I didn't scream. I didn't call the cops. I just hit record on the secondary stream, the one Vanessa's precious HOA server didn't have access to, and saved 3 copies in 3 different counties. That night the fine hit my email at 9:17 p.m. $300. Willful parental noncompliance with minor aesthetic code. Vanessa's digital signature looked extra smug. I poured a whiskey. sat on the back porch, and stared at the stars. Emily was inside. Braid in a Ziploc on her nightstand like evidence. I whispered to the dark. Okay. Vanessa. You just stepped on the wrong landmine. Monday morning I started the quiet war. First move, I pulled the bylaws from the public portal. No section 14.8. Nothing about children's hair. Ever. But when I checked the revision history, something only county techs can see, there it was. Uploaded at 2:14 a.m. The night after she cut the braid. Backdated to look like it had been voted on weeks earlier. Amateur hour. I called Harold. The only decent human left on the board. Retired accountant. Quiet guy who'd lost his wife to cancer the year before mine. He answered on the second ring. Logan. I was wondering when you'd call. Tell me she didn't. She did. And she's been doing it for years. Little rules she just invents. Then backdates. Nobody calls her on it because she makes your life hell if you do. He met me at the park that afternoon. Away from cameras. Slid me a thumb drive like we were in a spy movie. Board meeting audio from the last 18 months. She threatens everyone who disagrees. And the original draft of 14.8? It was about suggesting pastel colors for summer parties. Not hacking off kids' hair. I thanked him. He looked at the bench. Then at me. She crossed a line. Logan. A kid's line. I'm done being quiet. The escalation was textbook Vanessa. By Wednesday she'd posted in the neighborhood app, some residents seem to think personal tragedy excuses them from community standards. We must all make sacrifices for property values. Red heart. 3 people liked it. 5 more replied with crying emojis. Thursday. Another fine, $150 for emotional disruption of community harmony because Emily had been seen staring sadly at the park. Friday. The rumors went nuclear. Someone anonymous started a thread. Is Logan Brooks neglecting his mute daughter? She never speaks. Maybe he should focus less on fighting the HOA and more on parenting. I printed every single post. Saved every IP. Let them dig their own graves. Meanwhile, I was building a nuke. I cross-referenced every fine Vanessa had issued in the last 2 years. 43 of them cited rules that didn't exist until after the violation. She'd been forging policy like it was scrapbooking. Harold brought me more screenshots of her deleting old meeting minutes. Changing dates in the shared drive. She even used my own formatting macro, the one I wrote for the county 2 years ago when they hired the HOA to beta test digital records. She'd stolen the code to make her fake rules look official. The final piece dropped when Harold showed up at my door at 11 p.m. Shaking. She's calling an emergency meeting for next Tuesday. Wants to vote herself emergency enforcement powers because of rising resident aggression. She's naming you specifically. I smiled for the first time in days. Perfect. Tuesday night the clubhouse smelled like burnt coffee and fear. Every chair was full. Vanessa stood at the front in her power blazer. Hair helmet intact. Smile welded on. Friends, she began. These last few weeks have been challenging. But we cannot let one disgruntled resident. I stood up. The room went graveyard quiet. Vanessa. Before you keep talking. I have a question. She blinked. This is a board meeting. Mr. Brooks. Residents speak during public comment. Yeah. About that. I hit play on the projector I'd wheeled in. The video started. Crystal clear. Vanessa striding up. The fake concern. The shears. The snip. Emily's face when the braid fell. Someone in the back gasped so loud it echoed. Vanessa's smile cracked. That's taken out of context. I clicked to the next slide. Side-by-side bylaws. Original verses. Her Photoshop Frankenstein. Section 14.8 didn't exist until 2:14 a.m. The night after you played Edward Scissorhands on my daughter. Another click. The backdated timestamps. The stolen macro. The deleted files. Harold stood. I have the audio. Every time someone pushed back. She threatened their property values. Their kids' playdates. Their jobs. She's been running this place like her personal fiefdom. The room exploded. Mrs. Patel from 1423. Whose $75 fine for aggressive garden gnomes I'd helped her fight last year. Shot to her feet. You charged me for gnomes? Mr. Delgado. Whose basketball hoop got cited as visual pollution, started slow clapping. Vanessa tried the classic Karen pivot. This is a coordinated attack. I have only ever acted in the best interest of. Best interest? I cut in. You cut a child's hair because it didn't match your Pinterest board. A child who hasn't spoken since her mother died. You want to talk best interest? I played the final clip, Vanessa on the board call 3 nights ago. Caught on Harold's phone. I don't care if the kid's traumatized. Rules are rules. If we let one family slide, the whole neighborhood turns into a trailer park. Dead. Silence. Vanessa's face went the color of old cottage cheese. Her hands shook so hard her clipboard rattled. The vote took 4 minutes. 51-2 to remove her. Effective immediately. She didn't even argue. Just stood there. Mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. While 2 board members escorted her out the side door. The red tape came down from the park bench 3 days later. County workers. Real ones. The bench looked exactly like it did the day my wife and I finished it, sun-warmed stone. Our initials still carved in the corner under the new HOA mandated mulch. Emily and I sat there that evening. She still didn't speak. But she leaned her head on my shoulder for the first time in months. Her hair was growing back uneven. Little wisps sticking up like she'd been electrocuted. She didn't seem to mind. I pulled the Ziploc with the braid out of my pocket. We can keep it. Or we can bury it under the bench. Your call. She took the bag. Opened it. And very carefully tied the braid around one of the bench legs with the red ribbon. Then she patted the stone twice. Like saying thank you. That night I got a text from Harold. New interim president. First order of business, burn the shears. I laughed so hard I woke the dog. Look. I'm not saying every HOA is evil. Some of them probably keep the place from turning into Mad Max. But when one person decides they get to rewrite reality because they paid $400 in annual dues. That's not governance. That's tyranny with better landscaping. Vanessa moved out 2 weeks later. Rumor is she's living in a condo downtown where nobody cares what color your welcome mat is. Good. Let her enforce the elevator rules. As for me and Emily, we still sit on that bench every Saturday. She started humming sometimes when she draws. Tiny sounds. But sounds. And every time I see a new family move in, I make sure to tell them the story. Not to scare them. Just so they know, the cameras aren't just watching the bad guys. Sometimes they're watching the people who think they are the rules. So here's the question I want you to sit with tonight. When a grown woman uses garden shears on a silent child in the name of community standards, who's really the threat to the neighborhood, the kid with the braid? Or the Karen with the clipboard? Drop your answer below. And if you've ever been fined for something this stupid, tell me in the comments. Let's compare war stories. I'll see you in the next one. Stay dangerous. Stay quiet. And never, ever let them cut what matters.